Late at night, when the palace corridors had fallen silent and the city slept under the dark African sky, a single report landed on the president's desk. A report so disturbing, it would make him question the loyalty of the one man he trusted most. 3 humble miners had come forward with a story, and what their words uncovered would soon lead President Ibrahim Traoré into the shadows, toward a secret warehouse, and a betrayal so enormous, it threatened to shake the heart of Burkina Faso itself. But before we step into that darkness, tell me, what time is it where you are right now, and which country are you watching from? Write it below because truth connects us, even across oceans. And if you believe in honest leadership, justice, and courage, then like this video and subscribe, so you and I can continue seeking truth together. President Ibrahim Traoré stood alone in his office, the night pressing softly against the windows. In his hand, a small piece of gold, heavy, cold, familiar, yet something was wrong. The weight felt right, but the color whispered a lie. This gold came from Amadou Sankara, the president's most trusted gold dealer, a polished businessman who had supplied the National Reserve for 7 long years. But last month, 3 miners had come quietly to the palace, not as rebels, not as politicians, but as men who could no longer stay silent. They spoke of missing gold, of weights that didn't match, of records that changed like shadows at sunset. One miner, Yusuf, spoke with a trembling voice and fire in his eyes. A scar cut across his cheek like a lifetime of struggle. "Mr. President, I have worked in the mines since I was a boy. I know gold the way a mother knows her child. Something is wrong. The gold we send is not the gold that arrives." The president didn't interrupt. He didn't accuse. He listened. He took notes by hand because truth demanded respect. And when the miners left, he thanked them, knowing they had risked everything. From that moment, he began a secret investigation. Alone. No ministers. No inner circle. Not even his closest advisors. Because when corruption lives in the walls, you don't shout. You walk softly and watch. For 6 long weeks, the palace lights glowed deep into the night. While others slept, the president studied records, deposits, export documents, international sales. Slowly, painfully, a pattern appeared, and it froze his blood. 15% of the nation's gold was disappearing. Not stolen in bold daylight, but shaved away quietly, drop by drop, gram by gram, over years. Gold that should have built hospitals. Gold that should have paid teachers. Gold that belonged not to a man but to a people. And all roads pointed toward one name, Amadou Sankara. Respected, charming, connected, a man who spoke perfect French and English, who smiled politely at every ceremony. But paper smiles can hide sharp teeth. So the president set a trap. He took a pure gold sample, measured it himself, knew its weight like a soldier knows his rifle. Then he handed it to Amadou as a routine test. 3 days later, the gold returned with perfect paperwork. Perfect. Only, it was lighter, just a little. But lies don't need to be loud to be deadly. Someone had shaved the edges and filled the missing space with cheaper metal. And only one man had touched that gold. The weight wasn't all that changed. Something inside the president shifted too. Disappointment, anger, hurt, because betrayal cuts deeper when it comes from someone you once trusted at your table. That night, the president made a choice most leaders would never dare. He would not send soldiers. He would not announce an investigation. He would follow Amadou himself. In plain clothes, no escort, no flashing lights, just a leader searching for truth in the dark. His security chief, Colonel Sawadogo, pleaded with him. "Mr. President, criminals do not fight with clean hands. Let us handle this." But the president looked out into the night and spoke softly. "Colonel, I must see the truth with my own eyes. If I send others, the truth may hide. This must remain silent." And so the path into the shadows began. A leader, a betrayal, and a secret operation that would reveal how deep corruption truly runs. But what he would discover next was far worse than stolen gold. It was something that threatened the soul of the nation. And this was only the beginning. Mini cliffhanger transition. What do you think the president will find when he follows Amadou? A small crime or a hidden empire built on stolen dreams? Stay with me. The truth waiting ahead is far more dangerous than anyone imagined. In the end, they reached a fragile compromise. Yes, the president would follow Amadou personally, but Colonel Sawadogo would keep a distant watch from the shadows, ready to move in if danger appeared. No sirens, no uniforms, only patience and quiet eyes. The following Tuesday, just before sunrise, President Ibrahim Traoré stood before a mirror, but the reflection staring back wasn't a president. Old trousers, faded shirt, dust-covered boots, a worn cap pulled low over his brow. He borrowed an aging motorcycle, the engine rough, the seat cracked, the kind of machine no one would ever link to a head of state. He looked ordinary, and for the mission ahead, ordinary was powerful. Because truth is easier to see when the world believes you're invisible. By mid-morning, Amadou's office district buzzed with life. The smell of tea and roasted peanuts drifted through the air. Vendors called out. Motorbikes weaved between cars. The president sat quietly in a tiny cafe across the street. A simple glass of tea before him. He didn't blink much, didn't rush, didn't fidget. He watched, like a hunter waiting for the forest to speak. At 9 a.m. sharp, Amadou arrived. Gliding up in a black Mercedes, his smile polished, his handshake warm, his watch flashing sunlight like liquid fire. He looked like success. He looked like respect. But evil rarely dresses like a villain. Sometimes, it wears a suit. Hours passed. Customers came and went. Polite conversations, paperwork, casual business. Nothing suspicious. Nothing loud. Nothing obvious. Until just after noon, a white truck rolled silently to the back entrance, carrying heavy sealed containers marked with mining company logos. 3 men unloaded them quickly, disappearing inside. The air changed. The stillness before a storm. 15 minutes later, Amadou stepped outside, but this time he didn't smile. He scanned the street. He held a locked briefcase, and in that moment his calm disguise cracked. The president felt it too, the pulse in his neck tightening. Something important was happening. The Mercedes slipped through the busy streets, heading toward the city's edge. The president followed at a safe distance on his rattling motorcycle, Sawadogo's team like distant shadows behind them. The city thinned. Buildings grew scarce. Roads turned to dust. And then, the Mercedes turned down a lonely dirt road and disappeared behind the high walls of a massive warehouse compound. Guards everywhere. Cameras watching. Reinforced gates like iron jaws. This wasn't business. This was protection. This was fear. The president parked far away and moved silently through brush and scattered trees. Every careful step guided by old military instincts. He found a narrow tear between metal panels, and what he saw inside stole the breath from his lungs. This wasn't a warehouse. This was a factory of theft. Dozens of workers. Melting, pouring, reshaping, stamping, others forging documents, fake certificates, altered records. Pure gold was being mixed with cheaper metals, transformed into bars that looked perfect, but were poisoned with lies. The stolen purity? Gone. Hidden. Vanishing into the shadows. And walking through it all, controlling every movement like a conductor of corruption, was Amadou. Workers didn't just respect him. They feared him, because he wasn't just a dealer. He was a king sitting on a stolen throne of gold. The president's heart tightened, not with rage, but with grief, because every fake bar represented lost hope. A school that would never exist. A road that would never be built. A child who would never see a doctor. He moved silently along the perimeter, searching for more. And then he saw them. 3 massive shipping containers, being loaded by forklifts in the back lot. Unmarked, sealed, ready to disappear from the country, along with the dreams of millions. And at that moment, the president realized, this wasn't just theft. This was an entire secret empire, built on silence, protected by fear, fed by greed. and powered by gold. But the darkest truth was still waiting to be uncovered. Mini cliffhanger transition. Where were those containers going? And who, beyond Amadou, was powerful enough to protect a crime this large? Because sometimes, the enemy isn't just one man. Sometimes it's a network. And the higher you climb, the more dangerous the truth becomes. And then, the final wound revealed itself. The shipping containers at the back of the compound weren't just marked for export. They carried a destination. Marseille, France. The president stared at the printed labels, his jaw tightening. So this was the truth. Burkina Faso's lifeblood wasn't just being stolen. It was being shipped across the sea. Melted, washed, cleaned, reborn as wealth for strangers who would never know the names of the children who went hungry because of it. Every bar of gold was a stolen future. A stolen hospital bed. A stolen classroom. A stolen well in a thirsty village. And for the first time that day, anger didn't just burn in the president's chest. It roared. He reached inside his shirt and pulled out a small hidden camera, quietly capturing the truth. Pictures that could not lie. Pictures that could not be erased. Pictures that would finally shatter the silence. But fate has a way of testing the brave. As he shifted for a better angle, his foot brushed a thin wire. Click. Then, sirens. Alarms. Barking dogs. Shouts. The quiet world exploded. He had been seen. His heart slammed in his chest as he ran, sprinting back toward the old motorcycle. Gravel. Dust. Panic. Behind him, gates burst open. Engines roared to life. Armed guards poured out like a dark wave. He reached the motorcycle, hands trembling, turned the key. The engine screamed awake. He shot forward, dirt flying behind him, wind slicing past his ears. In the mirror, 2 trucks, gaining, fast. One mistake on this broken road could end everything. His mission, his truth, his life. And yet, he did not slow down. Colonel Sawadogo's calm but tense voice cut through the radio hidden in his pocket. Mr. President, we see you. Hold on. We are coming. Stay on the road. Just 30 seconds. 30 seconds. But fear stretches time. 30 seconds felt like 30 years. Bullets weren't flying yet, but danger breathed down his neck. He could see men leaning from truck windows, their eyes cold. Would they recognize him? Or just silence a stranger and bury him in the dust? Then, through the dust ahead, silhouettes appeared. Military vehicles, blocking the road like a steel wall. Soldiers poured out, weapons raised, decisive and unshaken. The pursuing trucks screeched to a halt, and realization washed over the men inside like ice. They hadn't been hunting a poor worker. They had been chasing their president. There was nowhere left to hide. Within minutes, the warehouse compound was surrounded. Soldiers poured in, disciplined and unyielding. The empire of lies collapsed in silence. Workers were lined up and questioned. Equipment documented. Containers opened. Gold inspected. And then, Amadou emerged. The man who once walked with pride now stepped forward with trembling hands, dust clinging to his once perfect suit. His eyes widened when he saw the president, still dressed in the clothes of an ordinary man. His voice cracked. Mr. President, please. There is an explanation. You must let me. But Ibrahim Traoré didn't raise his voice. He didn't rage. He simply spoke with the cold, quiet gravity of truth. Explain what, Amadou? The false bars? The stolen purity? The documents? The containers? The destination stamped on them? Tell me, what part of this did I misunderstand? Amadou opened his mouth, but there were no words left, because truth had already spoken. Investigators worked into the night. Records were uncovered. Accounts traced. Partnerships revealed. 8 years. 8 long years of theft. More than 400 million francs in stolen gold. Enough to transform an entire nation. That wealth could have built 30 schools, supplied 50 hospitals, given clean water to 200 villages. But instead it had fed greed. And the network wasn't small. A banker, customs officials, mining executives, foreign partners, A machine of corruption, smooth, silent, protected. Until today. Until courage walked into the shadows wearing dusty clothes and an old cap. That night, the president addressed the nation. Millions watched. Mothers, minors, soldiers, students, people who had suffered quietly, unsure whether leaders ever truly saw their pain. And now the world waited to hear. Would this moment change everything? Or would it fade like all the others? Because corruption is not just a crime. It is a betrayal. And when the light finally exposes darkness, the world must decide. Will justice truly follow? Or will fear force silence once again? He did not change his clothes. He did not polish his shoes. He did not try to look presidential. He stood at his desk in the quiet presidential office, still wearing the same simple worker's clothes, the dust of the day still on his sleeves, because he wanted the nation to see the truth. Their president had gone into the shadows himself, and what he found there had broken his heart. The cameras turned on. Silence filled the room. Then his voice echoed across the nation. My fellow citizens of Burkina Faso. He paused not for drama, but because the words hurt to say. Today, I followed a gold dealer to his secret warehouse. And what I discovered there has shaken me to my core, but it has also strengthened my resolve. Soft music rose. The air felt heavier. For 8 long years, our gold has been stolen. Not once, not twice, but systematically, piece by piece, shipment by shipment, hundreds of millions, taken from our land, our children, our future. His voice tightened with emotion, not anger, pain. Money that should have built classrooms, hospitals, clean water wells. Money that belonged to the farmer, to the single mother, to the child who walks 5 miles just to learn. He looked straight into the camera, not as a ruler but as a man. This theft existed because some people believe they are above the law. Because greed convinced them that your suffering did not matter. Because they believed Africa would never stand up to them. He leaned forward. They were wrong. The room seemed to exhale. Then his tone hardened like iron. To every corrupt official listening to my voice tonight, hear me clearly. I will not hide behind ministers. I will not send others to do what I would not do myself. If I must, I will come for you personally. I will gather the evidence with my own hands. And justice will find you, however long it takes. He paused, and something softer returned to his face. And now, I want to speak to 3 young miners. Yusuf, Musa, Karim. The ones who found the courage to come to me, when speaking up could have cost them everything. You are the true heroes of this story. Because of your bravery, a nation has stopped bleeding. Millions watching felt their eyes grow warm. Then his voice carried hope. Every ounce of gold we recovered will finally return home. To the children who waited for classrooms. To the sick who waited for medicine. To the villages who waited for water. Images of schools, hospitals and wells faded in like a dream slowly becoming real. And from this day forward, no one man, no one company, no one foreign hand will ever again control our gold without the eye of the people upon them. He placed the speech down slowly. The nation had heard, and everything changed. Weeks later, the courthouse overflowed. Journalists, miners, mothers, elders, students, all watching the man who once controlled everything stand alone in silence. Amadou Sankara, charged with theft, conspiracy, treason. The evidence? Unquestionable. Ledgers stained with greed. Containers marked with false seals. Witnesses who once feared him now standing tall. Amadou tried to explain. You don't understand the pressure, the foreign buyers, the offers, the opportunity. It was just a small percentage. I didn't think of the consequences. That was when the room went silent. Because the president himself stood up. No script, no microphone, just truth. You didn't think of the cost? Let me tell you about cost, Amadou. His voice trembled, not with rage, but with heartbreak. In the north, a hospital ran out of insulin. 3 people died. The money that could have saved them lived in your bank account. He took a breath. In the East, children still study under trees, because the money meant for their school sailed across the ocean in your containers. The courtroom swallowed hard. You did not steal gold. You stole lives. You chose greed over your country. And the truth settled like thunder. The verdict? Guilty. On every count. 30 years in prison. Assets seized. The stolen wealth returned. But Ibrahim Traoré understood something deeper. Punishment alone was not victory. Transformation was. So he built a new National Oversight Council. Not from businessmen. Not from politicians. From the people. From miners with dust-marked hands. From mothers who had buried children. From teachers who worked without pay. Every shipment now verified. Every gram accounted for. Every signature checked 3 times. The message was clear. Burkina Faso belonged to its people again. But, in the shadows, powerful men watched. And they were not done fighting. Because when you expose corruption, corruption fights back. And what happened next would test the president like never before. Will the reforms survive the forces waiting in the dark? Or will the old system strike back harder than ever? Stay with me. The story is only just beginning.